Welcome to Get Mad. I'm Mad Hildebrandt, and on this episode, we are joined by Maria Estrada. Maria is a Democrat running for California State Assembly District 63. She is an activist and a founder of Compton for Bernie. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, good morning.
So,
or good afternoon, I suppose.
Yeah. Or whatever it is when the people are watching us. So it's really nice to have you here with us. And I would like to, first off, just ask you to describe your district a little bit, the makeup of your district, and a little bit about yourself.
I'm running in the 63rd district, which is Southeast Los Angeles, which is 75% Latino, 11% white, 8% black. Majority is 56% Democrat. I believe it's 27% no party or other, which is no party, Freedom Party, Green Party, and I think 11% Republican. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for the record, Adam Miller, the Republican that ran in the primary, voted for me and supports my campaign. So.
Oh, okay, that's a good thing for your population to know that, for your voters.
Yeah, and I'm 6 of 7 children. My parents are from San Buenaventura, Chihuahua, Mexico. My father came here in 1957. My parents, he went back, married my mother, and brought her back in 1962. We were in Compton, and we moved to Linwood, which is right next door, in 1973. My mother still lives in that home.
Mm-hmm.
I still have, my godmother and family, friends from elementary school that I still contact that are either in Linwood or in Compton. And I actually just moved back to the district. I moved away in 1989 and moved back January of 2016. Also, I have 2 children. I have 3 grandchildren, and I'm an activist. And I actually did not anticipate running ever in any race. So
right, yeah. Yeah, that seems to be, in some of the best cases, it'll be like that. And it seems like then you really are not just running in this district, but you're a product of this district, and you're very connected. So let's talk about healthcare in your district. I see that
we have the highest rates of uninsured children in all of Los Angeles County, and we have the second highest rates of uninsured adults in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And we also probably have some of the worst environmental conditions in the state, and we definitely have the worst air conditions in the state. So we have a lot of health issues that are associated with that, respiratory issues. It's an estimated, the Thoracic Society, who did published an article about that at least 1,000 people a year in this area die from respiratory issues. And then if you add to that what's happening with all of the traffic, the 710, the 91, the 105, the 605, the 405, all come through here.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the busiest freeways. We're by the Port of Long Beach, and they want to expand the freeways, which are right next to the residential areas. There are homes literally right next to the freeway. So that compounds the problem. And then you have the corporations that are in these neighborhoods, next to schools, that are releasing arsenic in the groundwater, acetylene chromium-6 in the air. And then you have a company like Exide that functioned for over 30 years and contaminated every employees within the company and the surrounding residential area for decades with lead. So this is a generational thing, and once lead is in your system, there's really nothing they can do about it.
Right.
It causes behavioral issues in children and learning disability. So this is something that's an ethnic cleansing that's occurring in our communities. And none of the agencies in place, like the EPA, the AQMD, the DTSC, Cal OSHA, that was inside the building that knew these employees were being poisoned, did anything to stop it. It wasn't until the community rose up and the U.S. attorney finally had to shut it down.
Yeah, and all of this sounds, each district is so different. I've talked to people that lived on in farmlands and people that live in the South, and each district is just, you just keep hearing things like this where your own districts are under attack, and the people are under attack. But when you're thinking about what you're talking about, I mean, talk about the idea that you have, the actual ethnic cleansing that's happening in your district.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the company that was doing it, everyone knew that it was happening. So for 35 years now, that since this started, that they've known, every person that's been elected has known that this has been happening. So not only have they didn't prevent it or try to stop it, they're not doing anything now to even remedy the problem. Governor Jerry Brown came down here simply because he was shamed to, because he went to Porter Ranch, which is a very white affluent neighborhood, with the PG&E issue over there with the methane gas. He willingly went over there. He had to be ashamed to come to Southeast LA to look at what was happening in our community. But we're a bunch of black and brown people, so that there's not that sense of urgency for us. And the health department didn't put up any of our families in hotels or bring mobile homes in to put children in so that they're not in that contaminated area.
Right.
So at the time that he came, the estimated cost to clean it up was $500 million. He set aside $176 million. Cristina Garcia in the 58th district, which is part of this area, wrote a bill that taxes us a battery tax of $176 million. So the community, we California taxpayers, are having to pay for this while they protect a billion-dollar corporation.
Right.
And in the verbiage of the bill, they state that they won't be seeking litigate. They won't do litigation against the company because it's too costly and time consuming. And yet this bill was written in 2016, and they've only cleaned 270 houses. And the only reason they've cleaned those houses is because they were over 400 points of level of lead, and it was dangerous to even be near the homes. So they had no choice. But as of June of this year, 7,500 homes have been tested. 97% of those homes have lead. USC is doing a study right now, and they're asking for families to provide their children's baby teeth. 100% of the baby teeth tested have lead. Those children are going to have all these issues. And not the speaker that I'm running against, not Cristina Garcia, not Santiago, and definitely not Governor Brown, are doing a fucking thing to protect the community. In fact, they're protecting that company. Exide is still in business. Cristina Garcia hosted an event in the district, and she told the community, and she lied. They had someone state that Exide, that the community shouldn't expect anything from Exide because Exide has no money, and they filed for bankruptcy, and that's a lie. Exide is filed for reorganization, and part of the payment to the creditors, part of the negotiation was they paid with shares of their stock. And at the time it was $29 a share. They're currently $292 a share. The company has $1.9 billion in assets. They're opening a new location in Kansas City, Missouri, and their sales are up 23% this year than they were this time last year. So the company's doing very well. They're lying to the community. They're protecting that company, and they're doing nothing to help this community. Right. So the state is telling us that they're not cleaning what they said they were going to do. They're not giving the community resources, and they also are not fighting for a single-payer healthcare bill that would provide everybody some sort of help for what they're going to have to deal with. So they don't want to set aside the estimated $500 million that would be needed to clean up and help the community, and yet Los Angeles wants to spend $3.5 billion to build 2 new jails in Los Angeles. Well, who do you think they're going to put in those jails? The kids right now that are contaminated and are going to have all these behavioral issues and learning issues from this contamination. It's an ethnic cleansing. It's a genocide that's happening over here. Right. It's a form of violence that's being inflicted on Black and brown people in this community, and the speaker isn't doing anything about it. None of the assembly people, none of the congressional representatives. Roybal isn't doing anything about it, and nobody's talking about it. We're knocking on doors and informing people, and some of them know about it because they have family that's sick, and some of them don't. So it's a really drastic and terrible situation. And on top of that, the schools. I mean, Simon Rodia High School that I spoke at, the children, they can't even drink the water from the fountains because it has lead. And if you go on a website, you could go to look up any Los Angeles Unified School District a school and look up their lead levels, and it's anywhere from 4, 5, 6 points up to 14 points in these communities. And then if you go same Los Angeles Unified School District, and you go to Pacific Palisades, which is near Santa Monica and Brentwood area by Malibu, and it's a very wide, it's right next to Malibu, very wide affluent neighborhood. Their lead levels are 0.03, 0.04. So there is I think it's an intentional thing. The fact that it's known information and no one's doing anything about it. How could you know that your community is being poisoned and not do anything to prevent it or fix it? And nobody's doing anything to fix it.
Right, and then worse yet, they're making it impossible to go after the companies that are doing the poisoning. So they
protect them at every step. I mean, they do, and the fact is that most of these people, like Rendon and all these politicians, receive money for this corporation. These communities don't have money; they don't have resources.
Right.
So these candidates come around and they, give your kids backpacks before school starts and throw you a turkey and want to take pictures with you so they can post it on their website so that everybody can see what great people they are. But in reality, what's happening is that they are failing these communities, and when people go to talk to their representatives for help, they want nothing to do with them. We're dispensable to these people. Because I'm just a Mexican, and they'll get another Mexican and bullshit them and convince them to vote for them because that's what they do.
Right.
It is what they do. So. And it's really unfortunate because people's lives are at stake, and there is no one fighting for these people and their families and for us. I mean, they're just not.
Right. I mean, and that's why it takes somebody from the community to represent that community, and not somebody from, that doesn't care. And I see it. You very, very obviously care, because it's not just that you care, but because it's your own community.
I'll be honest with you. I get emails from people all over telling me about their friend was sick and they had to use their money to help their friend get in a home, and their families who have all these illnesses and they can't afford medication, and that to please help them. And there's a lot of people that are struggling and suffering out there. Some of the my own family and friends of mine who have jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They can't meet the deductibles, so they're paying $700 a month for insurance that they can't use because the deductibles are $3,000-$4,000. So they have to meet the deductible before they get insurance kicks in. Then you add to that the co-pays, and we know that the state of California spends, low estimate, $400 billion annually on health insurance collectively. Mm-hmm. We also know that about 20 to 25% of that goes to the healthcare industry that doesn't provide healthcare, the healthcare insurance company. So that's $80 to $100 billion right there that's being pissed away on non-healthcare for somebody to pocket that money. Right. And that's what we're trying to eliminate. There is no fixing the ACA. Expanding Medicaid is not the answer. It's a single payer system that we have to do. It's the only way it's going to save the state billions and billions of dollars, estimated $37 billion. Think about the state, every teacher in this state that the state has to pay their health insurance. Mm-hmm. That's sometimes a significant portion of the negotiations in union contracts. Unions who are not supporting this bill are doing themselves a disservice, because that's something that would be completely taken off the table. And in all honesty, that's one of the first things that's negotiated down. So why would you not support something? And I've talked to unions that, well, we have healthcare. That's not the point. That's totally irrelevant. Right. The point is that a lot of people don't, and everybody should have the same healthcare that you have and not have to pay for it, period. That's the reality of it. It's very
Right.
selfish when people say that. Well, I have health care. I had one of the city council women here in the city of Linwood say, well, me and my family have health insurance. Well, good for you, lady, but it isn't all about you. But that's the mentality. A lot of times, I work, I have health care. So you think that if somebody's disabled, can't work, they shouldn't have health care? I mean, is that what you're saying to me?
Right.
How many veterans we have that are out, don't have access to health care? There are a lot of, how many mentally ill people, homeless people are out there that don't have health care? It covers mental health, drug rehabilitation, which is a huge problem in this country. And you would think they'd be jumping all over it. And what
Oh,
makes matters worse is if you look at the speaker's platform, it actually states that he's for the environment, which clearly he's not based on his actions, because you could say whatever you want. If you're not acting on it, it's your actions that matter. And he also says he's been fighting for healthcare for over 20 years, and yet here's in the most powerful position in the state to push forward a piece of legislation that would do just that, provide everybody healthcare. And yet he's blaming everyone for the fact that he felt that the bill was incomplete, which is why you amend bills. That's why you work through bills. And
right.
yet he felt the need to completely stop the legislative process. It passed through the Senate, so obviously they felt it was worthwhile. And he alone made that decision for everyone in the state. And he needs to be held to account for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we're talking about healthcare, the people that get left behind or get left out are the very people that need it so often the most. And especially, and so I really understand and get that idea that you have. And you mentioned veterans for a moment there. I'm a veteran, and a lot of my viewers are veterans, and so I like to have you expand a little bit on that for the veterans in your district, on your platform and your approach to your veteran population.
Well, I think it's really unfortunate that the military budget keeps getting increased, and yet veterans are not getting access to the resources they need. And it's really unfortunate. They have some of the highest suicide rates around, and it's criminal that they are not being provided with what they need. Again, that bill would have helped tremendously. Even the fact that the Democratic Party has not been supportive of legalizing cannabis. Which it would be a huge help. It's a constant battle for basic common sense needs for veterans and for other people that they will fight. And now that it's now become legal, they're trying to capitalize on that and make it difficult for small businesses to be able to, small shops to open up. Veterans should be, provided those resources, and it should be made easier for them. The fact is that veterans suffer PTSD and a lot of other conditions because of what they were exposed to, and yet, they're only used as props when a politician needs someone at a parade or something. And it's just wrong. It's wrong. You can't ask somebody to go out there and put their life on the line and then turn around and they come back and you have no use for them. I mean, look at the veterans that are not citizens that are being deported.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Go and you fight for a country that doesn't fight for you. And frankly, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't really think that any Black people or Mexicans or non-Americans should fight for this country because of the way that we are treated. You just need to look at the stats of prison populations and the fact that billions and billions of dollars are being spent in police brutality cases against people who are unjust, being killed or beaten or brutalized by the police. I mean,
right.
This is there's so much inequality. Look at I'm on the board of the Native Women's Union Association. Indigenous people are being murdered at the hands of police, and nobody does anything. And it's even worse on a reservation. The fact is that there's no justice for those of us who we're just marginalized. We're, whether it be veterans, Black people, brown people, and frankly, poor people. Because
Right.
ultimately, this is a class issue. It's always going to be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a class issue. And yet you have people like Henry Kissinger going to speaking engagements and being treated like fucking royalty. And that's fucking disgusting.
Right.
Henry Kissinger is to Latino Americanos and Asians what Hitler is to Jews. And that's what people
Mm-hmm.
don't recognize. And he should be treated as such.
Right. Absolutely.
Someone like Hillary Clinton is praising this motherfucker, and people are treating him like he's someone important. He needs to be held accountable for his war crimes. I mean, we shouldn't be giving him space at all.
Oh, absolutely.
He said? Soldiers. He made this really condescending and callous comment about soldiers, as if they're animals. I mean, that's just their mentality
Right.
about military people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the military budget increases, and veterans aren't getting relief. They're not getting what they need. It's wrong. It's just wrong.
Right. Absolutely. And the whole thing with, when you think about Henry Kissinger and the time that he was active in the government, is the very time when they were dealing with Honduras and Guatemala. And here we are today, right now, watching the results of that, and people trying to stop them at the border or whatever. And it's like, but we created that. We created that problem. Well, then we need to help. And that doesn't seem to be what we're doing.
Have you seen the movie, the documentary Harvest of an Empire?
No, I haven't.
It's actually specifically about that. It's about the United States and what their part in all of the invasions in Central America, in El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, and how so many Central Americans immigrated to the United States, and the original populations and before and after these migrations because of the U.S. interference in the foreign governments, whether it be economic interference. NAFTA has had a horrific effect on Mexico, it's really maddening to me when you hear people saying, tell them to go back to their country and whatever, and yet they have Americans are very ignorant of their own history. That's a fact.
Oh yeah.
They have no concept of what their government. I mean, all this anti-Iran and Iran's our enemy and the axis of evil and all this nonsense, and yet nobody knows about the 1953 CIA coup in Iran, and they don't know what 1973 in Chile, what the United States did on September 11th, 1973. So we could go on and on about all the heinous acts and the failed foreign policies of the United States, and which would explain a lot of what's occurring, and yet nobody talks about that. They just want to sit there and blame brown people and say, what the fuck are you doing coming to our country?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And it's by getting people that are like you and activists involved, and people who know the history, that we can start making a change. I would like to, we're at the very end of the program now, and so I would like you to take a moment to just like to give you that moment to speak directly to your constituents, and provide your website and how they can donate to you so that they can get you elected.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Maria Estrada, running in the 63rd District for State Assembly. My website is www.mariafораssembly.org, and that's FOR, and you could volunteer, you could donate. We just opened our office in Linwood off of Atlantic in Cortland, which we're super excited about. We have been very fortunate. We have people that have come from Sacramento, the Bay Area. People are caravanning up next weekend from Riverside County. To the 28ers are coming to support us. I've just been really blessed with a lot of support. This is the biggest race in the state of California. I don't think a lot of people realize that. But if we can defeat the Speaker of the Assembly of the state of California, one of the most powerful men in the state, we would send a message to every sellout, corporate-owned politician that no amount of money can save them from their seats, that they're not safe. And they should know that, because there's a lot of injustice that's happening, and none of them are out for the best of the community. They're not out here trying to fight for us. They're not trying to help us. They're trying to placate us is what they're doing. And they talk in platitudes and what ifs and when I do this, but when they're in those positions of power, they do nothing for us, and they never have. And I am just, like I said, an activist, and I have my own family, and I do concern myself with the future of this community, my future generations. If we don't do something now, if we think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. But we need to be diligent. We knew in 2016 when that whole fiasco with the primaries and then the nomination of Hillary Clinton and all of that corruption and just anti-democratic system that we're dealing with, we know that it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. We got to be patient, but we have to be diligent about what we're doing. I had the highest increase in voters in the entire state of California in June during my primary, and I've never run for office, and nobody even knew who I was. So we have a really good chance of defeating the speaker and unseating him. And anybody that can help or is in the area, in LA County area or surrounding areas, if you guys want to come up and knock on doors with us, just stop by the office, and 11604 Atlantic Avenue in Linwood. Pick up some door hangers and some literature, and you're welcome to go out and spread the message, because we're just hands-on people knocking on doors. And to be perfectly honest, in the primary, I raised about $7,000 and put in $3,000 of my own. So $10,000 we spent, and I put up no lawn signs, no emails went out, or no text messages. And I got over 40% of the Democratic vote. The speaker spent $536,000. So this is literally David and Goliath, and this is the race. So any help would be greatly appreciated, and I appreciate you, Matt, for having me on and offering the speaker.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your ideas with us, and sharing, just the things that so many people aren't going to know about your district. And just to really thank you for being here. We're going to be watching you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and hopefully we can talk again after the primary to talk about the victory.
Yeah, after the general election. Right, yeah. General election.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been long. My phone's been blowing up the whole time we've been talking. It's like everybody's like, where are you?
Absolutely. And thank all of you for watching today, and I will see you